Here we go again.
No, not again.
You've been before.
How long have we been doing this?
Once more unto the again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. I'm Cody, and this month we've already seen a great blockbuster in the form of Logan, and now another movie is coming onto the stage, hoping to get some box office gold in the month of March, Kong Skull Island. Now, this film is the second in the purported MonsterVerse, the first of which was 2014's Godzilla, and in this film, which is now set in 1973, we see the Monarch organization go to Skull Island in order to seek out the mysteries of this island, and especially Kong. And we see that humans are not quite prepared for a giant ape. Now, this video will contain spoilers of Kong Skull Island, as well as certain plot-related spoilers and elements of several other films and TV series. There'll be a full list in the description below. If you have not seen Kong Skull Island yet, or any of the films listed below, and want to wait until you have, stop the video at this point and come back later. But with these things in mind though, let's begin. So, Kong Skull Island is essentially a cut and paste monster picture. Now, the generic monster picture tends to follow a pretty similar format along all of the movies. What do I mean by that? Well, this movie is really all about the monsters. You go to this movie knowing that you're going to see some Kong and a creature battles. And that's really all you expect. And the human characters are supposed to be just to propel the plot forward a little bit in between monster fights. And that's all you get. Now, you've seen this before in other monster films, but you've also seen it before in a number of non-monster films, or non-traditional monster films, I should say. Let's start with the obvious ones and go from there. Now, thematically, Kong Skull Island borrows heavily from the sequels of Jurassic Park, namely The Lost World and Jurassic Park III. In The Lost World, we see that a group of heavily armed mercenaries and another group of scientists go to Isla Sorna in order to either study the dinosaurs or capture the dinosaurs. Only by the middle of the film, the dinosaurs end up striking back, putting the humans on a very defensive footing, and for the rest of the movie, they're trying to get off the island while the dinosaurs are essentially picking them off one by one, except for the few main characters. And we see a lot of this in Kong Skull Island, of course, where within minutes of the expedition reaching Skull Island, Kong essentially wipes them all out. They're stuck on the ground. The humans have to reach the far end of the island, and then the other creatures of this island end up picking off the soldiers and other characters one by one until we're left with a few main characters. And this also borrows from Jurassic Park III, in that Jurassic Park III features another expedition to Isla Sorna, an island full of dinosaurs / monsters, and they recruit a guide in Alan Grant in order to get them through whatever dangers are there, but Alan Grant is recruited by the parents knowing that they know something about their real purpose on the island that Alan Grant does not know, and he has to figure that out as it goes along. We can see a lot of similarities in Kong Skull Island with the character of Conrad, played by Tom Hiddleston. Tom Hiddleston's character is recruited as a guide / tracker to escort these scientists to the island. He doesn't know what's there, of course, but the Monarch people, played by John Goodman mainly, knows that there is a monster on this island, and when the team gets stranded on Skull Island, Tom Hiddleston has to essentially get the civilians to safety, and he figures out very quickly that stuff's not quite right on this island. Now, since Kong Skull Island follows the basic format of a lot of monster films, a lot of the other monster films slash horror films involving monsters follow a fairly similar plot line. And this is very exemplified in the parallels with the Kong Skull Island and the original Predator film. In the original Predator, we see a group of military men go into the jungle via helicopter. They are on a mission that they think is one thing, but it turns out there's more to this mission than meets the eye. And they end up getting picked off one by one by a creature they know very little about. And by the rest of the film involves this team trying to get to the extraction point. And that is very reminiscent of Kong Skull Island, where this team is stranded on this island. They're getting picked off one by one by creatures, and they're trying to get to the north side of the island where they can get rescued. Now, if we continue along the vein of comparing Kong Skull Island to Predator films, I would say this film also shares a lot in common with Alien vs. Predator, in that Alien vs. Predator features a team of mercenaries and scientists going to a mysterious place, in this case a ziggurat under the ice of Antarctica. They get cut off from the outside world, and it turns out that the aliens, or xenomorphs as they're known, they get loose and they're picking off the humans one by one. The predator is there, or predators. They also kill humans, but they're there in order to keep the alien xenomorphs from getting to the surface. So whatever humans are left, she has to team up with the predator in order to help him to contain the xenomorphs from getting out and spreading to the rest of the earth. Now, this is very similar to Kong Skull Island in that, again, the team gets stranded, they're getting picked up one by one, but Kong is seen as a protector of the island, and he is there to ensure that the skull crawlers are not spreading, and he can protect the human inhabitants of the island. And eventually the humans have to help out Kong to defeat the skull crawlers. Now, there's an interesting parallel in Kong Skull Island as far as set design is concerned, where in the film, Skull Island is seen as a inaccessible island, previously inaccessible. Ships have been being lost around this place for centuries because of a ring of storms that encircle this island. And it's only in modern times that helicopters can pass through this storm because of satellite technology showing them the weak spot of this island, and it can only be passed through the air. And this is very similar to the set design and general set of the miniseries Dinotopia, which is based off the books by James Gurney. In the miniseries of Dinotopia, it's established that this island of dinosaurs is cut off from the rest of the world by a ring of storms that no ship or even aircraft can theoretically get through, except for low tide, and which forms a small passage for boats to get through the storms. So there's another interesting parallel as well. Finally, on a slightly more fun note, there's another interesting parallel between Kong Skull Island and a little seen Disney film, Atlantis: The Lost Empire, in which a expedition is sent to an unknown land, and the expedition thinks that they're very well equipped, and in fact that they are very well equipped for their time, but they immediately get their heavy equipment destroyed, and many of their team gets killed by a very large creature, and the rest of the film is them subsisting on what little they have left. So there you have it. Kong Skull Island is really much following the formula of monster movies as a genre, such as like the Godzilla movies, in that it's focusing mainly on the creature battles, but it's also paralleling heavily other films such as Lost World, Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park III for dinosaur action being picked off one by one, and the Predators in Alien vs. Predator as well for that same sort of situation, where an expedition goes to a place where they think they're prepared, but they're not, and they get picked off one by creatures of various forms. But are any of these things reasons for you not to see Kong Skull Island? I would say no. There are other reasons why I would say that you might not want to see Skull Island. For one, if you're going just to see the monster battles, you're in for a treat. But if you're expecting anything else from the humans characters, you're going to be sorely disappointed. And in fact, I feel like a lot of the star power in this film is pretty much wasted, such as Tom Hiddleston and John Goodman, Samuel L. Jackson. They're all very one note. They have very little depth. And the only real human character you can get along with, you can relate to and has an interesting backstory is John C. Reilly's character, who plays a stranded World War II pilot who's been stranded on this island for like 30 years. And he knows the island as well as anyone. He has an interesting story, but he's really, at one point, he's really just relegated to telling what characters there are. Here's what's going on at this point. Here are the players. Let's just not die. There's also an interesting pro and con with the soundtrack as well. Now, this movie is really playing heavily on its setting, which is 1973, right at the end of the Vietnam War. And its soundtrack plays a lot of Vietnam-era music, such as Creedence Clearwater Revival and other artists. And for the first, and it's a great soundtrack. Don't get me wrong, I love all these songs, and a lot of people would like the soundtrack too. It'd make a great 70s and 60s era mixtape. But I feel like it almost goes a little Suicide Squad. And by what I mean by that is like the first half hour, 45 minutes, there are so many of songs back to back, seemingly without any rhyme or reason. It's like, wow, I really like all these songs, but you're kind of going overboard. Thankfully, by around the 45-minute mark, they kind of stopped doing that, and it's back to the regular soundtrack score for a suspense monster movie where people are dying. But there's my pro and con there. There's a lot of great soundtrack music there, but it kind of goes a little heavy in the first 30, 45 minutes. Overall, though, I would say this movie, if you want a great monster movie, definitely go see this. If you're really a fan of the monster universe, wait until the end for the end credits. I'm not going to spoiler that just because it is a great moment if you're really a fan of the Godzilla universe. But if you're looking for anything else, you're not going to really enjoy this film. So, all in all, I would say go see this film, but keep those in mind. And just remember, there's nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before. So, until next time, thank you for watching.